What's up, you guys? Welcome to today's video. As you can tell by the title, we are going to be talking about Courtney Clenny, and she is charged with second-degree murder of her boyfriend, Christian Obamseli. I have a lot of very unpopular opinions about this case. Before we get into it, if you're new here, hi, my name is Jess. I'm a person in long-term recovery who has in fact gone to prison and also dealt with domestic violence and narcissistic abuse. I also have my bachelor's degree in correctional program support services with an under in psychology. So I do know a little bit about what I'm talking about in terms of legal stuff and domestic violence and stuff like that. If you want to follow me on any other social media platform, TikTok, Instagram, Patreon, that's $2. It's only ever going to be $2, except maybe for an extra tier that we are adding for a reality show. Stay tuned. All of that is linked down below, as well as my vlog channel, my podcast, and where you can find me on Roku. All right, I have a lot to say, so without further ado, let's kick this thing off. Okay, if I am being completely honest, I did not take notice of this case until Courtney's parents were arrested for obstruction of justice, that's not the technical charge, is it? They were arrested for tampering with evidence after a crime, and we're going to get into all of that. But Courtney's parents went viral for being arrested, and when I saw that pop up on Law and Crime, I was like, now we're charging parents. If you don't know anything about this case, I will give you a quick rundown, but this is not a deep dive. I'm just talking about it. If you don't know who Courtney Clenny is, she was an OnlyFans model. She has approximately made about $3 million via her OnlyFans. Probably more money than that, but that is what they are estimating. Her boyfriend, who is now deceased, he was also appearing in these OnlyFans videos with her. They were living in a luxury high-rise apartment building in Miami, Florida. And very regularly, they would get the cops called on them because they were fighting and they were loud and they were disturbing people in the condo. And it was just a very toxic, very tumultuous relationship. And just like most relationships that are that way, they don't get better, they only get worse, and the violence escalates, the abuse escalates. Ultimately, Christian ended up being stabbed during an altercation that they had on 4/2/2022. Courtney stabs him in the chest, and she is charged with second-degree murder. To back up a little bit here, a lot of videos, audio and videos were released. The only video that should have been released per the law is this elevator video where you see Courtney essentially hitting him and attacking him and all of that. That's what the media is painting, that she's just, she's the abuser. She's always the aggressor. He is this passive, calm guy. He would never even, lift a finger to her. And she is the one that is aggressive. Now, the elevator video is the only video that should have been able to be released. And that is only because Florida is a two-party consent state, but we're going to get into that. Hold on, let's watch this together. Let me make this perfectly clear. Nothing is simple about domestic violence relationships or toxic relationships or narcissistic relationships. Nothing is simple when it comes to these kinds of absolutely horrible relationships. It is complicated, it is layered. A lot of the time, it's two people that have a lot of trauma that is undealt with and unhealed. And it is messy and it's complicated. So I have learned the hard way that it's not simple. And a lot of times the abused can become the abuser. I don't like the verbiage surrounding domestic violence and narcissistic abuse. I don't like that people think that mutual abuse is a real thing. There is abuse and then there is reactive abuse. I think it's important to be very clear when discussing these kinds of relationships. And like I said, I was uneducated on this just a few years back, and I definitely was very humbled very quickly. And I think the universe is funny that way. But I learned the fucking hard way. Mutual abuse is not a real thing. Someone is abused and hurt and triggered and poked for so long until they snap. And that is when the abused becomes the abuser. That is when you lash out. That's when you react. That's when you freak out. That's, it's awful. If you're just looking at that video, most people will say, well, she's the aggressor. Look at how she's hitting him, which was completely not okay. She's completely out of control in that elevator video. She's pulling his hair and he just tries to like get her to stop. You see that several times, but he gets her kind of in a chokehold, which I would imagine is very triggering to her. And I'm saying that because she said in several different videos and body cam footage when the cops were called previously that he strangled her many times. So my take on the elevator video is they were fighting about something else. They had already been fighting before they got to the elevator, and she's in the elevator trying to get away from him, and she's hitting the buttons to try to go upstairs to her condo. And then she gets so frustrated because he's coming that she hits the screen and she's like, she is completely out of control in that video. And it just looks like she's just crazy. But I see her trying to get away and then her just snapping and just going into, fight mode, and she's hitting him, which is not okay. I think substances had a huge issue to do with this. And also Courtney was diagnosed with a personality disorder. What is that personality disorder? We don't know. They haven't released that, nor do they need to release that. Will it come out in court? Probably. But could it be narcissistic personality disorder? Absolutely, it could be. Could it be borderline personality disorder? Yeah, it could be a bunch of different personality disorders. And we don't know. Back to Florida being a two-party consent state. All of the recordings that Christian had of her on his phone should not have been released. One, that's illegal. You can't record somebody without their permission in the state of Florida. All parties have to consent, not just one party. And the recordings are turned on, obviously hours into whatever is happening. And that is my biggest issue with that kind of thing. Like in all these videos and the audio and the recordings, she is out of control. She is. But what happened before that? On April 2nd of 2022, body cam footage shows her asking for a restraining order to, put on Christian.
I said, do you want him to leave the property? She said no, she don't want him to.
I did not say that. I said
okay,
yes.
Hold on.
No, but
Hold on. He's talking, then you talk.
You're looking at police body cam video from Friday, April 1st. One Paraíso building employees called Miami police in regards to a domestic disturbance between OnlyFans model Courtney Clenny and her boyfriend Christian Abumseli. 2 days before investigators say she stabbed him to death. Clenny is in the lobby. The employee is the one who actually called police and tells them.
Her boyfriend comes charging towards her, and we actually try to get in the middle of it.
Clenny is visibly upset. She's on the phone with her dad while telling police Abumseli is stalking her.
Right now, I have not always been a victim, but right now I'm a freaking victim in the situation. I'm scared to go to want my dog.
Then says,
I want a restraining order against Christian Abumseli.
Officers checked Clenny's apartment and Abumseli wasn't there. They let Clenny know that if he's been living in her apartment and has belongings there, they cannot kick him out. Also informing her that she's not being clear on what she wants.
You want this person to completely disappear from your life. At the same time, you have him in your apartment here for 2 months with a ton of stuff in here.
But I know.
Clenny goes back to her apartment. Officers then go to the employee who made the original call, telling him she never disclosed that there was violence that particular night.
When she came down, he went charging at her.
That's fine.
That's my whole thing.
Right. But she didn't mention none of that until she says she wants to do something about it, that's where we step in, where it's a criminal activity, but she needs to mention something about that.
Okay.
Unfortunately, we can't do anything.
The cops told her, look, dude, you can't just get us to do that. You have to go in front of a judge to get a restraining order. She also asks the cops to remove Christian from her apartment, and they don't. They're like, well, he lives here. You can't just kick him out. He has tons of things here. He obviously has residency here with you, and, thoughts and prayers. And, just seeing the way that the officers talked to her on April 2nd of 2022, it just shows me that these officers are not trained in domestic violence. They should have talked to Christian and said, hey man, why don't you just get a hotel, for a couple of days. Let's just take a step, take a breather. Everyone needs to cool off, separate from each other, because obviously this is not looking good right now. Let's just take a break. They should have advised maybe even her to go to a hotel. She says in that body cam footage, hey, I'm going to be kicked out of my apartment because he, this is not a good relationship. I don't want to be in this relationship. I want him out of here. I don't want to get kicked out of my apartment. Because the apartment manager did file an eviction notice because, obviously they're causing constant disturbances. From all accounts, there wasn't 1 week where the cops were not getting called. Well, just a few days before the stabbing that took place, and I'll walk you guys through that scene. Courtney talks to the apartment manager via email, and she tells them, hey, I was just diagnosed with a major personality disorder. I'm very sorry for, my behavior. Please don't evict me. And the outcome of that is that the property managers decided, hey, chick, we get it. As long as you pay your rent, you're good to go. Florida prosecutors decided to charge Courtney Clenny with second-degree murder versus involuntary manslaughter. That is very crazy. So I think a second-degree murder case is going to be a little bit difficult because when you have that charge versus involuntary manslaughter, second-degree murder, there's some kind of criminal intent to harm with second-degree murder. With involuntary manslaughter, it's a crime of passion. It's something that was an accident. You didn't mean to kill them. The intent was not to kill. A second-degree murder charge is very different. So I think the prosecution kind of messed up with that charge. If they want her to serve life in prison, which is, it looks like they want her to serve life. I don't think that she will serve life because of how complicated these situations are. Her account of what happened is they were fighting. He had strangled her at one point. And it was a very, very bad situation. He had backed her up into the corner, strangled her. And then at the point of the stabbing, she claims that she was in the kitchen. She grabbed a knife and she's like, don't you come near me. I'm going to, hurt you if you come near me. And then she throws the knife at him and it hits him in the fucking chest. That is her account of what happened. Now, the state is going to have a medical examiner come in and say, no, you can't get that kind of blunt force throwing a knife. Yes, you can. Yes, you can. But they're going to say, the state is going to say that it was a downward motion stabbing. The defense is going to say that it is absolutely possible to throw a knife and hit someone that hard in the chest, which it is. It is possible. All they need for that is reasonable doubt. Could it have happened? Maybe. Is it more probable that she probably stabbed him? Yes, especially because he had a tattoo of her name and it hit right there. So did she probably stab him at close range and with a downward motion? Probably yes. But she has maintained that she threw that knife at him from a distance. Well, the state is going to go back and they're going to say, well, why were you in immediate danger when he's 10 feet away from you? Could you have gotten away? And that's what sucks. Any force that you use to hurt somebody in a self-defense case, the burden of proof lies on you. You have to prove that the force you used was absolutely necessary. And in trial, they will walk you through every single solitary step that you claim that you took. You couldn't escape in this moment. You couldn't escape in this moment. They're also going to talk about how she called her mom before calling 911. That is a little bit suspicious as well. I don't think it was that long, though. I think it was like 4 minutes in between. It could be because she was trying to stop the blood, which she does say that she was. Going back to the second-degree murder charge, I don't think that that was the right move. And I'm not an expert in law, but with a second-degree murder, there is an intent to cause harm. There's intent to kill. And you see throughout the body cam footage, which I don't think that her defense is worried about that at all. Obviously, it looks like a slam dunk for the prosecution, but for her defense, she's asking, I have to go to the hospital. They're putting her in handcuffs. She's like, no, I have to go to the hospital with him. I have to go to the hospital. She is very concerned. She's concerned for her dogs. She wants to go to the hospital with Christian. She says, pretty repetitively, and they essentially blow her off because they have to interrogate her because she literally just stabbed this dude. She is seen in, body cam footage asking again 22 minutes into the interrogation, can I go to the hospital? I just have to go to the hospital. So I think the defense is going to lean on that heavily and try to, convince the jury that there was no intent to cause harm. She is very concerned for him. So I don't think that she meant to kill him. I really don't. I don't think that the media has been very fair to her though either. And it's going to be close to impossible for her to have a fair trial because of how crazy the media has gone. They're like, she stabbed her boyfriend to death. She stabbed him one time and he died. And that sucks. That's horrible. It's a tragedy. 2 families lost 2 people, essentially. I know Courtney's still alive, but her life is fucking over. Her career is over. Like, that's a whole situation. But Christian is dead. So obviously somebody has to be held accountable. And that takes me to the family's lawsuit. Now, Christian Obamseli's family has filed a lawsuit against the property manager and security of the building, claiming wrongful death because they sat outside the apartment while they were arguing and fighting, and they did not call 911 and they did not call, first responders. Wrongful death lawsuits are pretty easy to win in terms of, if you're comparing a lawsuit versus criminal charges. But that is going to come down to what was the responsibility of the security staff? What was in their contract? What were they supposed to do? What is their protocol? Did they follow protocol? Did they not? So they're going to go over all of that, and we'll just kind of have to see how that plays out. I want to play a little bit of the interrogation video because body language experts have come out and said that she is not genuine. She is all about herself. She's high drama. So I'm going to play a little bit of it for you guys now.
And thank you so much. You have no idea how appreciative I am of that.
You want to go to the
bathroom? I was really scared. Yes, I do. I'm just picking my nails. I have nothing else to do. Just picking my nails off.
We have to inform you that Christian did not make it. Okay. Unfortunately, the doctors did what they could. And
Christian is dead.
Yes.
Oh my God. This is not real, right? Okay. There's a way. Christian died. I need to hug my mom.
I'll talk to your parents about a movie.
I cannot be left alone in like a room by myself.
You won't be.
After this. No, that's not true. That's not real, right?
It is real.
Christian is dead.
Yes.
This one body language expert that I was watching said that that's high drama and it's all about her. It would make sense why the body language expert said that. You see the investigators walk into the room, the detectives, and she said, "I'm sorry, I'm covered in blood." It's so easy to look at a case from the outside, from a calm, not flight or flight shocked state, and say, oh, this is how you should react. Trauma impacts everyone differently. We don't know what we would do in this situation. Body language is very interesting, though. For you to be able to have an analysis of someone's body language, you have to get a baseline for them. You have to watch other videos where they're not in a state of shock, where they're not, covered in blood in a police station. You have to get a baseline for how they usually talk. What are their body movements like outside of this one specific thing? So I don't think it's fair to say that she wasn't genuine the entire time. There's one thing in her interrogation video that is the most genuine out of everything, and no one can dispute this. It's when they said, "We have to inform you that Christian did not make it." She goes like this. She immediately gasps, grabs her throat, holds onto the table. Your throat's, an extremely vulnerable part of your body, and she just can't believe it. Like that is a real, genuine shock. I hope that her attorneys look at that and they say, this is a woman that was in a very toxic relationship and did not intend to murder him, which I don't think that was her intent. I really, really don't. It's just one of those things where they should not have been in a relationship together. It was horrible. And it ultimately ended in a fatality, which is awful. So the whole reason why I started paying attention to this case was because her parents were arrested. That popped up on my feed. That was going viral. Sometimes I think that prosecutors kind of step over that line where they try to charge the parents with certain things. I go back and forth with this in a lot of different cases. I'm like, okay, should the parents have been charged? I don't know. I know that definitely puts pressure on the defendant when their parents are brought into custody as well. That could be their strategy. The whole thing was because they were trying to access Courtney's computer, probably to get files off of there that she did not want seen. And can you fucking blame her? Like, I wouldn't want certain things out either, but, oh, and can you blame the parents for trying to help her? No, any parent would try to help their child, right? But you can't do that because you are tampering with evidence, and this is a fucking murder case. The parents were very dumb to do this, but they were charged with obstruction of justice, tampering with evidence. So we're going to have to see how that plays out. I can't wait for this trial to start. But here's my closing statements for this. Do I think that Christian was this sweet little innocent man and he was being constantly abused for no reason by Courtney? Not that there was ever a reason to abuse somebody. No, I think that they were both very traumatized individuals. Christian had a lot of, dark things in his past. And I think they were both using substances. But I think that he would trigger her. Courtney was obviously very insecure and believed that he was cheating on her. He would turn, the camera on, who even knows how long into these fights where he knows that the recording is going on. So he's calm, he's patient and all of that. I think that that is extremely toxic. Nothing is easy about this case at all. It's extremely unfortunate and it's heartbreaking that Christian didn't make it. They should have separated, as soon as it got any kind of toxic. That's the bitch of it when it comes to domestic violence. It's not easy to leave. It's very hard to leave, especially when you form a trauma bond with somebody. And that's what this looks like. I think that these were two very traumatized, messed up individuals that were using substances, and ultimately one of the two did not survive. I don't think a second-degree murder charge will stick. I think that they, would probably plead it down to involuntary manslaughter. That would be the smartest thing. That way she'll serve time for this, but she won't serve life in prison for this, I don't think. My best guess would be that she would serve somewhere in the range of 10 to 15 years, given credit for time served with the two that she set in there. That is my guess for this case. That's my prediction. Let me know what your thoughts in the comment section down below, but I'm going to end today's video here. As always, I love you guys. Stay safe, stay in recovery, whatever that looks like to you, and I will see y'all in my next one. Hey, so I just wanted to pop in here and say a couple of things. I don't want you guys to think that I am, taking sides or saying that Courtney is completely innocent here. I just don't think that she should serve life in prison. And it's so hard because I have served time with women that have killed their abusers. And it's very easy on the outside looking in to say that person was abusive, that person's innocent or not, My whole point in making this video is to just outline how complicated these relationships are and how horrible they are. And, it's something that a lot of people don't understand. I think it's something that our society does not understand. I think the cops on scene over and over again, they just don't understand it. So I'm not making excuses for Courtney, but I do think there's a lot more to it than she was the abusive one. She was always the aggressor and she was the whole problem. I think it is a lot more complicated than that. I also wanted to add that she was diagnosed with a personality disorder right before this all happened. And a lot of people are saying online that she is a narcissist and she has narcissistic personality disorder. Again, maybe, but most people that are narcissistic do not go seek therapy. They don't seek help. They don't think there's anything wrong with them, and that's why a lot of people with narcissistic personality disorder don't have that diagnosis. It's a very small percentage because they rarely go in and go to therapy. And a lot of times they go to therapy with their partner and they just learn how to manipulate more. They use therapy as a tool to cause further harm. But I did want to make it clear that I am not on Courtney's side here. I'm not saying what she did was okay. It obviously is not okay to ever put your hands on somebody. And then, Christian died. This is horrible. It's a tragedy. And I think that we need to, as a society, learn a lot more about domestic violence situations and trauma bonds and narcissistic abuse and personality disorders and all that stuff. So if you take nothing else away from this video, please take away that domestic violence situations are very, very complicated. It's not black and white. It's not that person was abusive and that person isn't toxic at all. It's complicated. We all have triggers and traumas and we all have toxic traits and we can do and say things that are not okay. We're all human. Our traumas are not our fault, but it is our responsibility to heal. And when you get with somebody that is just very abusive, emotionally, physically, financially, all of the ways, it can bring out the most unhealed version of you. It could bring out the most toxic version of you. And, that might have been what happened here. So my whole point is we need to do a lot better as a society in how we handle domestic violence cases. I also forgot to mention that a trial has not been set yet. They are still working on the case. Her lawyers are still working on it. And there's no trial date yet. I think Courtney has a lot of toxic traits. I think she can be very manipulative. I'm not saying that she is a saint. I'm not saying that she's innocent in every single thing. But I do believe that she was abused in this relationship. And I do believe there were times where he was doing horrible things to her. In survival mode, there is fight, flight, or freeze. And Courtney fought back a lot. And then you throw substances on top of that, alcohol and pills or whatever the hell they were doing. That makes it even more dangerous, even more scary, even more violent. I'm very interested to see how this all plays out. And as soon as they go to trial, a date has not been set yet, you guys will see me back on here talking about it because I'm really invested in this. And I just kind of want to see how it all plays out. And I want to know if my predictions are right. All right, back to the video. Or maybe this is the end of the video. I don't know where I'm going to pop this in. Okay, bye.